Mm-mm.
Hi, Iliana.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Thank you so much for being willing to be a part of the Rediscovering Our American Dream project.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. I'm really interested to learn more about you and your story and your perspectives. Well, let's just jump right in, Iliana. If you could introduce yourself, tell us your full name and where you're from.
Okay, my name's Iliana Pujols. I currently work as the policy director at the Connecticut Justice Alliance in Connecticut. I currently live in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Thank you, Iliana. And can you tell us a bit more about your upbringing and your childhood? You know, what was family life like? Um, Life in your community, school?
Yeah. So I talk a lot, bear with me. um, I grew up in primarily between West Haven and New Haven, Connecticut. Both towns are pretty much next to each other. I think the difference is West Haven is a more predominantly white town versus New Haven, which is considered one of the inner cities in Connecticut. I moved to New Haven first year of high school. Before that, though, I spent all my years in West Haven. My family always lived in New Haven, so that's kind of why I say I grew up in both. When I was younger, I've always grew up with just my mom. My father lived in Puerto Rico. I have two younger brothers. Now I'm 24. My brothers are 17 and 8. So they have came along the way. When I was younger, I used to like cheer, soccer, used to be into a lot of different things. When I was about, I want to say 10, my house burned down. And then little by little, things kind of started to like take a turn, or not really a turn, because now when I kind of reflect on it, I feel like I've always dealt with normal adversities, right? We've had addiction in my family, incarceration, all these different systems that were intertwined. But personally, after that was kind of when I started to shift into a very different lifestyle as a kid. Um, Along with that came things like eviction, living in shelters, etc. We tried to move to upstate New York, weren't really feeling it, came back 3 days later. So we're figuring it all out on the ball. But I ended up transitioning to a New Haven school, where then I went to high school in New Haven. Loved it, met a lot of my friends, longtime friends there. But I think what was important during that time was, my first introduction with the juvenile justice system was at 12 years old. Thankfully, I've never been incarcerated, but pretty much every other part of the system that you could have pushed me into, I was there. Um, my sophomore year of high school, I ended up getting expelled for a fight, which is where I had the opportunity to transition into my alternative high school, which I speak a lot about and might speak more about later. But that was really where, all the kids there were probation referred, super, super dope environment. The staff was amazing. The experience was great. But through that program, I graduated, met the Alliance. They were doing work around girls in the system, and my program director had connected me with them. And since then, I've kind of just been building my, I don't know, capacity and platform as a young leader, being able to engage in both, or really all local, state, national, and international, which is kind of really amazing. So, that's how I met you.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Ileana. Well, thank you so much for being open and transparent and sharing. You've had quite an interesting journey, but it's amazing to see how you're now, utilizing your lived experiences to inform people and empower others, and educate and advocate. It's just really amazing to see. And Ileana, is there something that maybe one or two things that stands out to you about your life experience thus far? And also, what is something that people would be surprised to learn about you?
I think as I'm getting deeper into the work, I'm realizing that cis is a rare breed. Very young, I took on a lot of adult-like responsibilities, which I think has benefited me now being in the position that I'm in. I'm grateful to be in a workplace where I know that I'm good here, right? This could be my career. I could stay here long term. And that doesn't come often for people who come from situations like mine. So I think that that's something that I've been super just grateful for and reflecting a lot on lately. What was the second part of your question?
Yes, it was. What is something that people like most people wouldn't know about you or would be surprised to learn about you?
Mm, I don't know. I think a lot of people, one, don't assume my age. I mean, when they meet me, they automatically, I had somebody from my team the other day tell me that they thought I was at least 35, which blew my mind. I think it also has to do with how I carry myself. But in terms of like things that people really wouldn't know just looking at me would probably be like my rap sheet with the system. My program director used to always joke around when I was in high school, right before I turned 18, she would always tell me like, any more assaults? Any more charges? You want to rack up any more? What, you're like 9 in, 8 in? And she would just laugh about it. And we would laugh it off, but I don't think that anybody would ever attach something like that to the way I present myself, or have been presenting myself for the past couple of years. And my friends would be surprised to hear I haven't gotten into no trouble, but they learn that little by little as I kind of share things on social media.
Thank you, Iliana. And you mentioned briefly earlier what you're currently doing, but what do you do? So can you share more about your profession and the work that you do in your primary position right now? And how long have you known that you wanted to go into this field? Or what pushed you to get started? Was there a moment or experience that sparked your decision to get involved?
I kind of like telling the story. So I first started this work when I was 19. Prior to this, I was a good job hopper. I always had a job, but was always going from job to job. Um, got bored really quick. When I first started this role, what caught my interest was honestly the pay, right? Um, those who know me know that I've been with the Connecticut Justice Alliance since 2017. I started as one of the founding members of their Justice Advisor cohort. And what that really is a group of young people who have all been directly impacted by the systems, who are just interested in advocacy and policy work, right? With our mission being to end the criminalization of youth, we recognize that we can't change a system without working with those in the system. So starting as that beginning group, we were working per diem. They said $25 an hour. And I was like, oh, I'm around. I need that. I really, really need that. I don't know what this is, but they seem really interested in me. And this would be really useful financially. In the beginning, I wasn't too interested because I didn't really understand. We were immediately like in meetings with legislators and stakeholders and program providers. It was a weird space for me. After I started actually going to the meetings and attending and understanding the conversations in the room, I was like, Connecticut can arrest kids as young as 7? And did you hear what this prosecutor say? And did you hear what this person said? And little by little, that started to catch my attention, to the point where, I mean, I started with them October 2017. In July 2018, they brought me on full time to oversee the group of justice advisors. And at that time, I was the youngest one on the team. Again, I started 19. Everybody was well over at least 28, right? So that was a shift for me. And then again, we're a staff of 3, right? So I became that third staff person, started supervising the team, and since then have kind of been able to help them like build their curriculum, their foundation for the justice advisors, really map out what that looks like. Thankfully now, the beginning of this year, we actually, our executive director retired. So my boss became the executive director. I took on the role of the policy director and was able to hire another JA, which is another justice advisor, to take on the role to supervise the team. So now we're a staff of 3 with about 7 justice advisors, both staff being, at least 2 staff being under the age of 25, and have really been able to transform the organization to a youth adult partnership, right? And I think our overall goal is just to make sure that directly impacted people are at as many decision-making tables as possible, but not just there as a token or a check off the box, right? More there as a partner, right? And an authentic partner, and recognizing what that is and what that means. So I've been thankful to be with the organization for a while, got the opportunity to work with a couple of other places such as Youth First, Annie and Casey, most recently the World Congress. But I think my primary role is just making sure that more people like me can be in decisions of, positions of power.
Thank you for that, Iliana. It is a wonderful story and very dope. Just amazing. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Iliana, how has the pandemic impacted you, your field, and like the work that you do, and or your family?
So the work got tough. Right before the pandemic hit, we had transitioned into a new cohort. So we literally started a new team in the pandemic. Everything was virtual. We were still adapting. We didn't really know how to do everything virtual. Thankfully, we adapted kind of quick. But the engagement wasn't fully there the way that it was in person. And we recognized that that was a definite challenge. I think the other challenge is the fact that my desk is right next to my bed. I live in like a 500, 600, if that, square foot apartment. So it's one room or the other. And now I wake up and I look at my desk. So it's like I can never detach myself from work. And I think that boundary has become a personal conflict that I've just been dealing with through the pandemic. I think for my family, I mean, my mom has an 8-year-old and a 17-year-old at home, which the 17-year-old now lives with his father, at least an hour away from my mom. My mom, who also works doubles. So that means that I've kind of have been able, really forced to jump in and really help more, which is also tough as a person who's a student, a full-time worker, and lives also 40 minutes away from my mom. So I think it's just caused a lot of sometimes I have to do things at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, which in the middle of my workday. Again, thankfully, I have a workspace where my boss is pretty flexible with that, right? If you have to handle personal stuff during the day, just flex your time, right? As long as you get the work done, I don't really mind how you work your day out. I think it's also been some good stuff too, though. The pandemic, unfortunately, has brought a lot of opportunity for support in my life. I've been able to spend more time on personal things. I've been able to apply for schools, like actually do what I want to do now that I'm not constantly driving from meeting to meeting or here or there, like I'm home, So it has also given me some flexibility.
Iliana, when you hear the term or the phrase, the American dream, what bubbles up for you? How do you interpret that? How do you feel about that?
If my best friend was asking me that, the first thing I would think of is 90 Day Fiance and what they would think of the American dream. I swear, because that's what I think of the term American dream. I know no American that's my friend or family, whoever says that. Right. And the way that I see it is there is no American dream. Right. I feel like the American dream term was built off of a very one size fits all cookie cutter, you have to be this way approach. And these are the things that you have to do to live a successful American life. So I think of how foreigners may look at that and how people who may be in other countries look at America and they expect a country full of wonders, right? And all of these opportunities for success. But when you actually are here, raised here, live here, even if you come from a foreign country, you realize very quickly that that is not the American life, right? And when I think of American dream, I think of a small amount of people who get to live what that looks like. And I believe that people should just be able to create their own kind of American dream. Like, what does American dream look like to you and your culture and your home, to you personally? And is it really an American dream? So some people don't want to live that. And again, this is just what I think of when I hear it. Some people don't want to live the white picket fence, work home gym, diet, take care of the kids, go to the cookie party. Like some people don't want to live that life. Some people want to be single and travel and just live and explore and do different things and live outside of the basic American dream. So that's what comes to mind for me.
Thank you, Iliana. That's helpful and very interesting and also very true. What are some of them you've touched on, but If you could highlight maybe one or two challenges that you have faced in trying to achieve, instead of saying the American dream, maybe, you know, in trying to achieve your dreams.
Mm, I think one, and I touched on this a little bit. I'll expand on it though. Me taking on more responsibilities at a younger age definitely presented a lot of challenges for me. It has also given me the skills that I have now. I mean, at 14, I was working immediately, working with youth at work, always making money. I've always had the mentality that you have to work and you have to, like, you can never go without a job. I'm the kind of person where if I don't have a job, I might lose my mind. Um, but that has also presented challenges with me just because, I mean, the way that I was raised was, oh, you're 16, you're old enough to get a job, you got to bring money into the home. And even my mom now would look back and we'll have conversations about it. And she'll be like, oh, I'll never be like that with my kids again. Like, I can't believe I was like that or I did this. But when I look at it, it's the way that we were both brought up, right? The minute you're able to get a job, you should be bringing money into the home, not saving money for college, not saving money for a car or whatever it is. You got to pay bills. Um, so with that mentality, always, I feel like that has over time made me learn how to manage things better, but also has just presented challenges because I've always prioritized work. When I came out of high school, I never thought about college. My immediate thing was work, work, work. I need a full-time job. I need a second job, and let me go bartend. Um, and it was always work focused. It was never really, what do I want to do with myself? And it never gave me the time to think about that. I think another thing is just, I mean, my mom was alone. That's it. It was just my mom. So I was my mom's support, right? And being that support and my mom being alone, I didn't always recognize what it means to be a single mother and how tough it really is. So I was a little tough on my mom. I used to give her a run for her sanity most of the time. And to say that, right, me and my mom didn't have the best relationship when I was growing up. Through high school, I mean, we had a really rough relationship. Now we're like two peas in a pod. I mean, that's my travel partner. We do everything together. But in high school, that was a big challenge for me, was family. And I would do anything to not be home. If that meant running the streets all night, going to spend the night out, staying at a friend's house for weeks, couch surfing, whatever it meant, I would not go home. And those kinds of challenges, I think, I mean, those carried out through past 18. And that's a whole nother conversation, right? Of like, when is a kid not a kid anymore?
Thank you for sharing, Iliana. Was there ever a low point when you didn't think that you would succeed or that things wouldn't turn around, and what got you through it?
Mm, yeah, I think high school was when I really got to that point, and not even. It might have even been like eighth grade, going into maybe from eighth grade to my junior year was rough. Um, my eighth grade year, they had transferred they did a whole school arrangement where we ended up in a school that was predominantly, I mean, there was two West Haven schools. One was where my kind of people was, and then the other one was a very predominantly white school. And they merged us for eighth grade, but they brought us to their territory. And it was, I mean, the principal there was horrible. He used to send us to everybody from the school that I came from was always in school suspension, always suspended. I mean, they would write us up for things like giving people hugs or wearing slippers, or it was just ridiculous. Um, that year, I mean, from there on was really just tough for me after that. Transitioning into a new high school, new environment was also tough. I also cheered in high school, which was one of the things that kept me like really happy being a freshman accepted onto the cheer team. Like, it was something that I was interested, I was happy about. Then I got kicked off the team for drama, which brought me back to my low point, right? And in between all of these great things that were happening, there was always something that kind of dragged me down back to the low point. And I don't think that that really changed until I got to my alternative school. Because what was unique was, one, we were a small group, right? There was probably 25 students, if that, on a day-to-day basis. The school was one hallway, maybe 8 rooms, and everything was different. the staff was amazing. The culture was amazing. All of our problems we handled in-house. I mean, and they based their curriculum off, they broke their curriculum for the year into like 4 or 5 different categories. And it was purposefulness, resiliency, integrity, respect, right? Like, what school do you go to that breaks their curriculums into those kinds of things, right? So I think that was when I really got to understand the value of myself, the value of my family, really identify where my trauma was, right? What was I dealing with that was making me do X, Y, and Z? Um, and they really gave me that sense of like, girl, you could do anything. Like, you need to get it together. We need to make sure you graduate. We need to get you into your own apartment. Like, I mean, they furnished my home. They got me out of my mom's house. They did everything to make sure that I had time to focus on me. And I mean, down to giving me grocery cards from my mom, just so I don't have to bring home money. Like, listen, here's a card for her to go grocery shopping. Make sure you guys put food in the house. Like, just things to take off of my plate. They gave me that. And it was like, oh, I could be me. I could focus on me. I could do what I need to do. So I think that was when I really I came off of that low point and hit my high point again. And from there, I've just been floating on cloud 9.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Iliana. That's really amazing. And has there been, you already mentioned this, but has there been any additional high points, like moments of like where you feel like, yes, I did it, or success or euphoria, like really just pure happiness and or joy?
I honestly can say that I've been able to do that so much lately. And I say that in the most humble way possible. Especially like the last year and a half, just being able to highlight. I mean, the other day I called my grandmother and was like, I was on Telemundo. I don't even speak fluent Spanish. And to hear my grandma cried when I told her that. And it was so funny because years ago I posted a status and I was like, when I make it on Telemundo, I could finally tell my grandmother I made it. And now it's like, I made it on Telemundo. I could tell my grandma. So little stuff like that, right? Where I get to kind of celebrate the high moments. I mean, anybody who knows me, I'm constantly applying for fellowships. I'm constantly doing something. I mean, I'm always putting myself somewhere where I probably have no business being, right? And every time that I get accepted to something or I'm able to complete something, I make sure to celebrate that because I think it's important. And like the people around me also do that, right? My best friend, anytime I tell her, the first time I was on the news, I went to our 4th of July party. I showed my uncle who actually passed away earlier this year. And I showed him the video and was like, oh, look, I'm on the news, whatever. And he started crying and he was like, look, everybody, there's a Pujols on the news. She's not in jail. And it was just so funny. And my family was so happy. And just little things like that where I'm able to like make the other people around me happy about what I'm doing. I love it. And my friends are people I don't even see in years. They'll write me and be like, girl, I've seen you on here and I'm so proud of you. And I think I celebrate vicariously through other people celebrating for me. So I constantly try to like, just make sure that I reassure myself in that. And I just enjoy it while it's there.
That's beautiful. And my last question for you, Iliana, is what advice would you give someone?
I think advice that I would give somebody is you always have to be willing and able to check yourself. And I think we often, my work is always going to be centered in creating opportunities for other people, right? And I also think that people have to do what they need to do to create opportunities for themselves. I would not be here if I was not willing to reflect on my own areas of accountability. And absolutely, people have barriers. The system sucks, right? There's always going to be challenges that we're going to face. And I will always continue to do work to tear down those challenges. But meanwhile, and alongside of that, we also have to do that internal work. And we also have to recognize how we contribute to things around us. And we also have to recognize how much unnecessary extra effort we sometimes have to put in just to get very simple things. And when I think about that, I think of the movie The American Son, right, with Kerry Washington, where she was going back and forth with the officer and expressing, I taught my son this, I taught my son that, and he knows his rights. And the officer was like, honey, at the end of the day, the reality is your son is a Black man in America. You could teach him every right you want to teach him. He was basically telling her, like, we have to move different. Right. And I think, yes, let's tear down the systems. And we personally have to move different. And as unfortunate as that is, don't sit in that and be sad and mad about it. Do what you got to do to prove that no matter what barrier or challenge you're going to face, you can still overcome that. Right. So I think just being able to willingly do that and acknowledge where your power is the only way you're going to be able to do what you want to do. And I'm still working on that every day, but I'm realizing that I would not be here at all if I did not do that internal work. So I think that's my best advice I could possibly give.
Thank you, Iliana. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm glad I was able to talk